All right, I don't think I need to talk about what the tournament is since I talked about it in the last video. But I guess we are here today with the person that got second place,
Yes.
and you played.
For my team, I played Sanbaka.
All right.
I don't know. Have you seen the deck list? I posted it in the thing. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah,
Or if you want
I saw the photo. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I played Toko Center, Sanbaka. Basically just get to three, play arena, clear the lanes, and just swing in. So relatively straightforward gameplay.
Hmm. Yeah. In your deck, do you think you're running like any cards that you usually don't see other people play, or?
I do. A few of them I do, and I think we'll touch on this a little later. Some of
Mhm.
them are like budgetary things I just don't own. Like I
Yeah.
don't have four Lulus, so I don't run four Lulus, but
Yeah.
in an optimized build I would. Other than that, a couple of them I run the dual colored level ones, and I think they usually run the level twos, but a lot of the decks I've seen will run the um what is it called? Let me pull up the name. The Ratnas, which will be
Mm,
you down it to give minus 1000. But I run the vanilla black white level one with just
yeah.
5k because they run the Ratnas with the Sister Clairs so that they can up it and then still attack.
Mhm.
But I usually don't have issues. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where the extra 2k would have helped to like clear a lane, for instance. So having it really, it felt like there's no room in the deck for those. So I just run the
Mm,
vanillas, and it gives me access to a few more spells. Although the spells I used were also not great. Um, so I run that. I also run the Angie level two, which is you get to play Signy from your hand onto the field,
mhm.
and then their enter effects don't trigger. I did that mostly to combat No Limit and other, a little bit into Ancient Surprise, but a lot, basically any deck that runs like Double Crush, especially, or ways that it can really aggressively get in there. So I basically play Angie, put one or two Signies down, which ends up sometimes becoming Enter. So it's kind of a weird roundabout way to get Enter, which Sanbaka usually has a problem with.
Mhm.
And another thing that's also very important is that it costs zero to grow. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of situations where you really need you to get that limit of seven, so you can play Fuyuki and then two Renas,
Mhm.
and basically the ability to make sure that I can get an assist to level two as soon as possible is sometimes very important for the deck. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been playing Diagram and some. Well, you probably. I don't know if you ended up playing any Diagram players in the tournament. We'll go into what you played against later. But that part that you said when that you use the level two to get cards on the field to then go to the ender.
mhm.
It's not really the same thing, but Sanga has that level two Sanga that you grab from ender to the field, and then if it gets destroyed, goes back to ender. It's not the same thing. That version, that card is better, but yeah, that part again.
Yeah,
Yeah, goes.
this deck never has any problems with filling its hand. The only time my hand was ever empty was the one match I played against the Universe's Beginning, the
Mm-hmm.
Uchino, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like my hand is always full of stuff, like almost too full. So the fact that I need to like spend cards to fill lanes is never an issue because there's usually things I need to throw away anyway. Um, and the fact that it protects, the usual Ange they do is the one that bounces to hand, so it like opens a lane and then it like protects you but also opens a lane so that
Mm.
you can attack with it. But that's another thing that I like. Rena opens lanes so easily that you don't really need that, and the fact that I can basically save two life cloth with that one card that only costs two and sometimes even pays for itself if they attack into it.
Yeah.
um, So that's just the one that I've been using that's really different. Everything else is relatively standard. Again, just a little bit more budget leaning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So I don't know, since we have been talking about options and everything, I don't know if we should go like through the cards in the deck, or if this is
we can. Yeah, I will. Let me pull up. I have the deck with me, but sometimes
Mhm.
it's easier just to look at it. I'm gonna pull up my list if I can find it somewhere. Um, it's pretty straightforward, like I said, for the most part. I don't remember what channel I posted it in.
Yeah, I was looking at
So
the
all
same.
the level ones, basically the game plan of the deck, the single most important card is Reina Yurumi, the level 3. I guess I should explain what it does if people aren't super familiar.
Mm,
So it's a level 3. If you have a Signy named Fuyuki Hakase on the field, when it enters, it gives a target Signy minus 4K. So that's one way you can vanish things. And then she also has an on attack ability, if that wasn't enough, that your all of your opponent's Signy get -3. Well, it's -1K for each Signy, each virtual Signy on your field, which is always going to be 3. So it's basically if you have 2 Renas out, your opponent's board is like -6K, plus you have a couple of spot -4s if you need to get up to 10 or 12, and then you can use Toko to like go over the top. Um, so like I only run 3 because I only own 3, but obviously you should, if you're running this deck, you need 4. So 4 Renas, 4 Fuyukis. Melissa, which is a level 1 that when she enters, she puts the top 3 cards into the trash, which is also very important
mhm,
because the Toko level 3 will pull Signies out of the trash if you need them. It's basically a way to ensure that you get the 2 pieces you need.
mhm,
Um, so that's another 4 of. Mirigundo is another that I would. A lot of decks don't run 4, but I would just because, in addition to providing the mill effect, she also kind of gives you card advantage that she can pull things out of the trash if you need to. Because there were a couple of times where it was my Togo was level 2, so I couldn't do 3 yet, but I put a Miri out. I paid the 1, so I milled 3, and then put a Melissa out, which then milled another 3. Like it's another way to just keep churning through the deck and get the cards you
yeah.
need. For the level 3s, that's basically the support pieces is the Fuyuki, the Melissa, the Mirigundo. I run both of the dual colors just because they're just generically good cards, and I
Mhm,
wasn't impressed by the other virtuals.
yeah.
For the 3s, I run 3. I should run 4 Renas. Um, the other 3s that I ran were basically the ones that I had. So I put in the super rares I had, and I put in just some generic filler level 3s. But I don't think I ever played any of the generic level 3s. Maybe there was one game where I played like 1 or 2 of them, but it was basically always Rena. I would occasionally play Lulu. Occasionally I played Himawari, which is the one that has Shadow.
Mhm,
Um, so I know this is something that, well, I guess we can get into this. If I was running a optimized build of this, I would run 4 Renas, I would run 4 Lulus, and I would run 4 of the Nuis, which a lot of people don't run, but Nui is the one. Let me find it in my where if you have at the beginning of your attack phase, if you have 20 or more virtual Signy in your trash, you can pay black and 1 to vanish target Signy on your opponent's
mhm,
field. Which honestly, the only reason I would put 4 of those in there is for something like amino acid or things that don't die if you subtract. Like if they're really high power or you can't subtract their power, like it's sort of like a release
yeah.
valve emergency button.
Mhm,
Um, so that's basically, and then the rest I don't even remember. I think we talked about everything. But it was the
mhm,
spells. I run 4 Darkness Eater. I probably shouldn't. I actually had the deck. I built the deck, and then I was like, in my head, I'm like, there's no virtual Signy in any future sets, so this deck is done. Like, not thinking that I could change the spells.
mhm,
So I would definitely replace the Darkness Eaters with 4 copies of the Under Attraction or Under
uh-huh.
Attractive, which is basically if an effect of your Signy minuses opposing power, it doubles the
Yeah,
minus,
yeah.
so it makes all of the effects that much more strong. And also, if you have a bunch of cards in your trash, you get to put a card back in your hand, which is another thing that's also really
Hmm.
helpful. So yeah, I would definitely replace the spells
Yeah.
with the other attractives. But
Mhm. I was the other day I was looking into this deck technically into virtual Signy and everything. I even went, well, I don't know if it's what you used, but I went into Cockatrice to see like all the sets and everything, to see the cards, and I like came across the thing that like this deck was basically done in the set, well, like in the set that it came out. It was pretty strange to me to see like a deck come out and just stay there.
yeah, it's very surprising, and it's something that doesn't really happen in other card games. I think the reason for it is because it's so heavily tied into the VTuber arc. Like they kind of
Mm.
would have to pull more because all of these, I didn't realize it just because I don't really follow VTubers. Like all of the cards that are virtual signies are like actual characters that you can like watch on YouTube
Oh,
and stuff like that. Yeah,
I didn't know that
they
either.
all have their own channels and all that other stuff. So
They can just go and
it's
watch.
certainly possible that they get more of that in the future. In the meantime, um, I know a lot of people say No Limit is the strongest. I really think that the Rina Yurumi package right now is the strongest build, just because it part of the reason is because it does have a pretty good matchup against No Limit. So it's like I wouldn't say it's tier one, but it's like better. It beats the other tier one deck, so that kind of gives it an edge in the meta, and it does reasonably well against all of the other decks. The one deck that I would say it probably struggles the most against is Diagram, which I
Hmm.
happen to not face. So that was very fortunate that my matchups nobody was playing Diagram. Um, there's a few cards that like terrify me that I also didn't see. Like amino acid is probably the scariest because it turns off literally all of the removal in the deck. So
Yeah.
at that point, like there's nothing I can do. I didn't run into any Arc which is another one because she dodges the target minus power. So it's you basically have to just punch her and remove her that
Mm.
way, which slows me down a little bit. Um, but those are the two big ones, and I managed to not see those Signy at all in the tournament, fortunately. So
Yeah.
it's a strong deck, but it's somewhat easy to tech against, and it doesn't really get any support. But I'm basically playing it now because it was my strongest, and it's like at the point where it will be the strongest, and it's just
Hmm.
kind of gonna the power level is gonna gradually go down as new options come out. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like as you were saying, the minuses cards and everything. Like as I play Diagram, I haven't really been playing yet because I'm still waiting on my cards for a month. But uh, as I play online and everything, those cards like Amino Acid and Arquin and all of that against the minuses, like even Diagram takes to a point that can't even do anything. And you're saying like,
yeah,
yeah, and like when I was talking with the with Tetra that got third place, he was saying that a lot of people think like that like Diagram and Uchu are like on the bottom of the line of decks at the moment, something like that, or at least are the least played ones at the moment.
yeah. Yeah, I they're definitely the least played. I don't agree. I think, well, I don't know that there's one clear like bottom tier deck. I think there's a couple issues is that I mean I would say that the support for those decks probably isn't as high as it needs to be, but that's universally pretty true except for the Sanbaka, which is that's I think the reason why Sanbaka is so strong because it's like already complete, whereas the other decks will kind of mature and improve over time.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the one deck that I feel is probably a little weak is Card Jockey, which is my favorite team. And that I think is just because um, there's not a whole lot of good options for like your pieces there. And really, it's honestly, I feel like the MC Lion Center is probably the weakest of the three, and that's the one option that they have
Yeah, right, right.
mostly just because she doesn't work too well with the endless punchline, which is like the reason to play the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like the two of them don't really work together. Um, So I'm expecting in the next set, Card Jockey will probably get a little spike in power. Really, I think the reason why those slower decks don't work as well is because there's a lot of people playing No Limit,
Hmm.
which is a very aggressive deck. So they come out of the gate swinging, and the slower decks just can't survive well enough. Like they don't slow the No Limit deck down, or even the Sanbaka deck I played is really a very aggressive deck.
Hmm.
Um, so they have a trouble slowing them down enough, and a lot of it too is there's a lot more nuance to playing control in Wecross just generally because usually in other games like your people are used to just swinging, like you have the Signy, you just attack and you force them to block, which in Wecross that's not always the best play. If you're playing a control deck, there's a lot of instances where you just don't want to attack in, because if you attack in, you're denying them cards, but you're giving them enter, which then they can
Yeah.
use to generate cards and do other effects like that. And the slower decks are a lot more, they require a lot more like experience and knowledge of the game to really maximize, versus the aggressive decks like No Limit and like Sanbaka. You just turn left and you just go in and it doesn't matter. Like the strategy is just win quickly, and at that point, like you don't really need to think about the strategy all that much as long as the lanes are open and that kind of thing. So I think as the game matures, those decks and people get used to playing them will stand out more, and they'll get more support too, and stuff like that. So we'll see in the future, but
Yeah.
I really I, I think most of the teams right now are relatively balanced with one another.
Yeah, and since as we can see, we're still on the English format. We're still in the, let's say, beginning of the game. We have two sets out, one coming out next
Mm-hmm.
month. There isn't much, let's say, there isn't much choice on what cards we can really run. Like we have a certain set of cards, and there's not like the deck you ran right now. It's like you said, it's basically done. But the other ones
Yeah,
are growing gradually with each set and everything. So it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
a waiting game now.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I've been looking through some deck lists, and a lot of people will say like, I run this card because there's just no other option to run other than this card. Like that's one of the problems, or I shouldn't say the problems, but I've been, like I said, Card Jockey is probably my team of choice, even though I played Sanbaka. A lot of people in that deck run Black Saddle, which is it's a vanilla green level 3, which when it enters, it just enter charges one.
Yeah.
And that's all it does. And people run it because like,
There's anything else. Yeah. There was a
so
point
I mean,
like,
it's stuff like that. Like we'll get new super rares, and stuff like that. We'll get new assists and new centers, and it'll shake up the game a little bit more. And it'll be interesting to see like where, because right now, like the teams, there's only one center for each team basically,
yeah.
other than the two that came out. So once I'm excited to see like we'll have a card jockey with I think Lovett is coming in the center in that one, and stuff like so.
Yeah.
Even if you're running the same teams, you can run slightly different builds with the same teams.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I have been trying like against some other people on cockatrice, like like the next set decks, and I've played against Madoka Center, and like the difference between Musica Center and Madoka Center, it's like it has a big difference. It was
it
pretty
does.
fun, and but like yeah, we can see the differences that are coming with just next set and then the next one, and it's
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think one thing that does is it kind of like can help shore up some of the weaknesses of the teams. Like I was saying with, I mean, I'm talking a lot about card jockey because that's the one I'm most familiar
yeah.
with. Like Lion, and the center, her ability is basically guarantees a damage, which is fine. But compared to something like VJ Wolf, which I think is set 3, she basically gives you like a whole bunch of enter charge in the
Hmm.
center, which makes sense because like the white build is more of the aggro slash card draw because she gives you cards when she enters, versus the green one is more enter charge. So now you can have the same deck, instead of focusing on cards, you can do enter, which gives you more powerful effects for like your pieces and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
other spells insignia like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the same builds, how different like the same teams can look just based on who the center is, because it gives you different,
Yeah.
like each one, whatever their color is, they tend to kind of focus on. the
Hmm.
specialties of that color.
Yeah. Well, then, regarding this tournament a bit more, what did you end up playing against? Like on the, it was 5 rounds.
There was 5 rounds. I played one Uchi. Um, I played one Universes, or yeah, Universes. No, that's the same team. I played one Uchi, one Ancient Surprise, which the Ancient Surprise was the finals, and then everybody else was playing No Limit. So I had a
Mm.
lot of experience playing No Limit, which again, I think this deck matches up really well against No Limit, which is why I feel like I did as well as I did.
Yeah.
I just happened to face everybody playing No Limit. So
Yeah, but
so
that,
yeah, a lot of people are playing that. The Uchi player I know did do really well as well. I think he finished 4-1, if I remember right, maybe 3-2. And then the Ancient Surprise player is the one who won with 5-0, which is that was another matchup that was harder than I was expecting it to be. But that's just I think because the Ancient Surprise has so many big Signy
yeah.
that it's harder if you're minusing little chunks here and there. It's harder to get through. Although I feel like I did a decent job with it, but just couldn't close it out.
Yeah, and then I've been like I've been trying to get more familiarized with the game because the deck I know the best is Diagram, and I'm like I don't play it super well, but like I know the
Mhm.
cards, I know what I should be doing and everything. But I've been looking into other options, other decks and everything, and I think Ancient Surprise was something that I was looking at lately, and yeah, the power gains and everything. Even though I hear a lot of people say like green is the worst color. It has. All right, so there was a little cut here, because I ran out of space, but I was really quickly to start recording it again. So the only thing that is missing here is that I was saying that, like, most of the people say that green is like the worst color because it doesn't have much going for it. Of course, it has plus powers and stuff like that, but compared to the other colors, they have a lot more options and a lot more stuff they can do. Right, back to the rest of the interview.
Very well is the Elrig support they have. So like Toggle Rainbow, I feel like is probably one of the best assist Elrigs, if not the best assist Elrig in the game because
Mm,
it does so much. So you have that. They have a decent amount of enter gain anyway, and also harmonic call is like it's expensive because it costs 8, but if you can resolve a harmonic call, if you have the enter to do it, like that's a blowout. I mean, if you get that card, because you get Assassin, you get Double Crush, you get Lancer, and if you have one open lane for the Double Crush, I mean, Lancer's going to crush a claw, Assassin's going to crush, and then you have your Elrig. I mean, I
yeah,
think the reason I probably lost against that deck is because the Sanbaka deck tends to generate a lot of enter for the opponent because you keep banishing stuff, and my opponent just in both games got a harmonic call, and there was nothing I could
yeah,
do about it.
that is not
So
much. And did you end up playing like all the games best of three, or did you play some best of one?
one was best of one just because of timing, but everything
Mm,
else was best of three.
yeah, yeah. And like in general, what did you think about this tournament? I know it was like the first tournament of the store, and there were some stuff like they would let you change a card here and there, and stuff like that. I think they were just trying stuff out and everything. But what did you think about it, like in general?
I thought it was well. I mean, it was run very well. The guy who ran it, he did a good job of keeping everybody just to make sure they did their games on time and that kind of
Mm,
thing. I don't know for sure whether people were switching decks or not. Like nobody really mentioned.
mm,
Honestly, I kind of like that it's more casual because it can like I played the Sunbaka because it was my best deck, but I would much rather play like a card jockey or something, or even diagram. But like knowing that for the next tournament is it makes it easier for me to make the switch, and then you don't feel as bad when you lose. Like it's more
yeah.
about just getting the games in with people, regardless of where you are. Because I played people from all around the United States. I feel like one person was also in like Europe or something, like
Mm,
maybe Spain, um, something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's laid back and casual enough that I feel like anybody can kind of jump in and just play whatever you like. If you look at the deck lists that they posted in there, I don't think any of the decks that anyone was using was like fully optimized. They're
mm,
more along the lines of like what I was running, that you have a couple of super rares in there and that's it. But there's a lot of it feels like there's a lot more budget friendly decks in the tournament, which is again, I think it's the lower stakes kind of help to that and just make it
Yeah.
easier to jump in and just get games in really.
Yeah, it's just like a really nice start for people that want to play and don't have locals or anything around, and or people that like just started the game, want to try it out. It was like free to enter anyways. So
Yeah, that was another one that I was really surprised. It's just free to enter. You know, you if you
yeah,
get a prize, you pay for the shipping, and or you if you're just ordering from the store, just throw it in. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, it seems like a no
really
brainer.
easy. Before this tournament and everything, did you ever like play in any tournament before? Do you have locals near you
I
or something?
don't. No, the store that's closest to me that has any kind of locals is like 3 hours away. So I really don't have the option. I asked my store, but the distributor that they use like doesn't carry it, so I don't really have the option. So all of my cards
Mm.
are ordered online. So really, this is like the best place for me to play that I've found so far, and it's worked out really well. All of my opponents were also very nice and courteous and seemed to know the rules of the game and everything like that. So
Yeah, I think it was really cool. And I like I'm the same thing. In my country, I don't think there is any store that runs Wicross. Like there's a single one. But and even if I want to play any other card games, any like a Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Vanguard, anything, I need to drive for like 3 hours to get to a store. So
yeah, that's brutal.
these kinds of events are really nice and everything. At least
Yeah,
for
yeah,
people like me, I usually play, let's say, online. As I was mentioning before, I played in Cockatrice and everything. So I really like these events. It was a shame that I wasn't able to participate because like the event started, I believe, on the 15th or something.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I ordered my cards from them on the 11th. And I even thought like, well, it's between 8 and 16 days. Even if I like skip the first round, I'll maybe able to play on the second one. And
Hmm.
then they got to my country, got stuck in customs, and I still haven't got them.
Oh God.
Yeah, I even like contacted customs and everything, and they just said like there isn't a limit for this part of the process to be done, so just wait more days.
Oh
I
my God.
Yeah, I waited one more week, and like yesterday or the day before, I messaged them again. A guy answered saying, "I'm gonna contact internally and see what's causing this and everything, and I'll come back to you as soon as I know something." Never heard from them again.
Nothing.
So I'm like,
God, that sucks.
yeah. And then after that, I found like someone from, I think, Italy that was selling like singles, and I ordered some upgrades I wanted. Those arrived already because those are in Europe. The other ones are still like the main part of the deck, like the trial deck and everything, are still stuck in
Uh-huh.
customs.
Oh my God. Well, hopefully they'll get in here in time for the next one because the next one is actually coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it's until the 13th to register, and then
Yeah, the
they
registration has started. I don't know when the rounds are starting.
yeah, it's probably like 14th or 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm contacting them again to see if they can literally just ship that back my home, and I just want to play, man.
Yeah, God. Oh, that
Yeah,
sucks.
but yeah, yeah, I think this was a really nice tournament, and we have talked about like your deck and everything and changes. The changes you would make would be just really the spells, right? And like what we talked about, like ratios and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like the big changes really are the fact that the level threes are not optimized just because I don't
Hmm.
have them.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I would run four um, four arenas instead of three. So that one's not as big of a deal. But I would run four Lulus just because they're generally good cards and she does what I need. And then I would run four Newies just in case I run into amino acid or other things that I need to vanish.
Yeah.
And I would swap out the spells for the Darkness Eater for under attractive. But other than that, I mean, the deck is mostly complete, at least
Hmm.
until if we ever see more Virtual Signy, which who knows if that will be, because there's not even any in Japan either. So
Yeah.
if there are more, we're probably at least 2 years away from seeing them.
That's true. I've been looking at the sets and everything, and yeah, like we have the good thing that since they have it until like set 8, I believe, or receiving 9 or something.
Um, I I think 7 just came out or something. I think 8 is like just now being like spoiled. I
Yeah.
don't think 8 has come out yet, but we're starting to
Hmm.
see some 8 cards,
Oh
if
yeah,
I
that's
remember
true.
right.
Yeah, I think they're getting that one. Yeah, so we can just like see ahead and see what might come in, what we might use, and everything. I think that's a
Yeah, I'm
pretty
really
fun thing too.
yeah, I mean I started watching Wixoss when the anime first came out, which was like 6 or 7 years ago at this point. So I'm more familiar. I like the Diva anime I watched just to watch it, but I wasn't
Hmm.
very interested in it. But I love the original anime with like
Yeah.
Tama and Midoriko and all that stuff. So getting all of those L rigs back, I'm like, I can't wait. Because then you can. The other thing too is that's going to be really interesting. Is like those don't really have teams with them,
Hmm.
so it's much more free to like experiment. You can even use the older L rigs too if you need to. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens once those start to come out. So I'm very excited. I mean, that at this point is still quite a ways away in English, but I can't wait for that.
Yeah, to start mixing up stuff, and it's going to be like a completely different, let's say, game per se, because you can mix and match with everything, and the decks will be very varied. Like you can play a center, like two people can play the same center with a lot of different assists and all of that. It's going to be,
Hmm.
I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I also really like too that they, at least for the teams, the fact that all of their pieces are so strong. Like at the moment, really, the team that you play is like probably like 80% determined by their team piece,
Hmm.
just generally, just because they're all so strong. And I think most of them even cost zero. I know like the card jockey won the diagram. I think No Limit also costs zero. Um, so you're incentivized to play maybe like a sub-optimized team just to get that really strong piece,
Yeah.
or like sometimes they have support signy that are also really strong. So the fact that they are doing that too is like you can still play on theme, and still be competitive because they have access to these really strong tools that otherwise you wouldn't have access to.
Yeah.
So
At the time, that's what you have to go for.
yeah, yeah, basically.
I don't know if there's anything, any other subject you would like to like talk about or anything like that.
I don't really think so. I feel like we covered a lot of it. There wasn't, like I said, everyone in the tournament was really nice.
Hmm.
It was run really well. It's a good jumping in point for anyone looking to try. Just, I mean, it happens monthly,
Yeah.
or at least that's. But I mean, it's happened last month, and the intent is that it will continue to happen monthly.
Hmm.
So as long as you have the cards, you can show up and play, and everyone seems like relatively. There hasn't been any like super competitive cutthroat people that I've seen who were like get angry when they lose and that kind of. Everyone seems pretty chill and nice, and so yeah, it was a really good tournament overall, and can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. From what I've seen from the community, like in general, not just the people from the tournament, but everyone else, I think this game's community is really fun. And like I was really when I messaged the people that got the first three. Like I messaged third place, I messaged you and the guy in first place. Everyone was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And like at first, since my channel, like I'm starting to upload Wixos right now, Wixoss, I always come up with Wixos for some reason. I watched the freaking anime when it came out. I only watched the first season though. I don't remember why. And I was like, I want this game to have a game. I want to play it because ages ago I didn't know about it. And but for some reason, as soon as I saw the name, I always said it Wixos instead of Wicross. And I watched the thing. I heard
Yeah,
it. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think everyone is really nice, and I was really ecstatic when everyone said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And yeah, I'm really grateful to you guys to just accept it and come over and do it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something like I said, I watched the original anime when it came out. I imported some of the cards from Japan too.
Mm,
There was like 3 or 4 sets that I imported in. So I've been like waiting for this game to come out for like I said, 7 or 6 or 7, whenever the anime came out. Like
hmm Yeah, I
I
think it
I never
was.
expected it to come into English, and the fact that it's here now and I get to play it
Yeah,
and talk about it, like I'm happy to talk about it all the time. So
yeah, yeah, and I think like the community needs to like. It's not that the community is small, but like anything we can do to make more people aware of the game and bring people in and teach them the ropes and get it bigger. I think it's something we should do and could do.
yeah, I agree. If we can get more gameplay videos and stuff like that. I know there are channels that are starting to do that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of mechanic. I mean, I've been playing Magic since for almost 20 years. Pokemon just as long, although I took breaks, here and there
hmm
for both of them. But I've been playing card games for like the more than 20 years easily. And For whatever reason, like all the mechanics and everything in WeCross, like they just fit and everything works really nicely. And
Yeah.
it provides a lot of really interesting decisions that you don't see in other card games where, you just want to flood the board and do whatever, you're trying in other card games, you're like doing as much as you can on like all of your turns versus WeCross a lot of times like I was saying before, like sometimes the smartest attack is like just not attacking
Yeah.
because you deny your opponent enter. You may like depending on if you're running like a free strategy, you can clog their board up, which is something that really doesn't happen in other games. Like
hmm
just having a Signy that doesn't do anything if it's frozen.
Yeah.
The L I really love the concept of the L rig deck. The fact that you just have this deck with you at all times
hmm
that has a few like really good abilities with it that you'll always have access to when you need them. So you can kind of like that kind of really determines like almost like the character that you're playing, which I know is
hmm
like the idea of the Elrig anyway. So
Yeah.
it also helps with some of the randomness too that you're not always relying on the drawing the cards in your deck. Sometimes you can just use your pieces or in the old game they were called arts, but those are all
Yeah.
gone. But yeah, I mean, it's a really cool system. The life cloth system is a really nice comeback mechanic too, because you're taking the damage, but then that either I mean it may become a life burst, which really can help turn the tide, or they all become enter. So even if you're taking damage, all of a sudden now you have more resources than your opponent to help catch up and reestablish board state stuff like that. So there's a lot of really interesting things in the game, and I I hope it gets more popular and I can actually play in person with people like near me as opposed to over
Yeah.
cameras, miles and miles apart. So
Yeah. I hope.
anything to help the game grow.
Yeah, I think that's one of my goals too. Like, I would love a store in my country to have the game. At least I don't say like drive there every month, every week, but like at least once a month, play with other people. Like, of course we can play over cameras, but having that social aspect in a store and everyone together is
Mhm.
always different. It's always
Yeah. It makes a big difference, it really does, and there's a certain amount of, like, hassle too that comes with webcam, like, you have to make sure the camera's set up, you have to make sure your display is set up so you can see the cards. There's a lot of times you can't really see the cards, you kinda just have to either know what they do already or, like, either look them up quickly or trust that your opponent's telling you the truth, which I've never had issues with that, but,
yeah.
it's just there's a lot of things, in the way that can get in the way that if you're, like, sitting across from somebody
Mhm.
and you can pick up their cards and read them, like,
Yeah,
it would
it's
just be a
something
nicer convenience
different.
to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know. I don't want to take much of your time, because I've always that problem. I don't want to take much time of anyone's. So I don't know. Since we talked about everything, I don't know if there is anything you want to shout out or anything for people to follow or something that I could put down below.
I don't really have I don't have a Twitter. I do have a Twitter, but I haven't used it in years.
hmm
So I don't know. I guess find me in the Wixosstore Discord channel. Well, I'm hanging out there if you want to, people hop in and get games or whatever. Or I may end up, depending on how popular the game gets, I may reignite that. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's it.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you very much thank you very much for accepting this and doing this. And yeah, I hope, well, if you get top 3 again, and this tournament might happen again, because I'm gonna try
Yeah,
and
hopefully I'll see you again in about a month, and then I can
yeah,
talk about my weird card jockey deck, and hopefully, but we'll see. Yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
that one's got a higher hill to climb than the Sanbaka, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right then.
All right, take
Bye
care.
then. Thank you.